What's up guys, Matty here. Today we're going to be checking out a new plugin from Reverb Foundry called Tai Chi. Now, I thought I would never do another Reverb review. The reason being is there's so many out there. I already have the ones that I use, which is, the Valhallas, Seventh Heaven I use a lot, and a couple of the different ones from UAD. I thought I had more than enough reviews. I didn't think I needed to do any more reviews on Reverb, and I just thought, the whole concept of Reverb plugins was played out. However, Reverb Foundry has proven me wrong, and I saw this new plugin called Tai Chi that they came out with, and it has a lot of really cool features that I think are special and different and worthy of doing one more Reverb plugin review. So today's video, we're not going to do so much a tutorial of everything in the plugin. I'm going to show you why I like this plugin and why I'm going to start using it in my template. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so here is Tai Chi. And, before we get too in depth of why I really like this plugin, I'm just going to play a couple different examples so you can hear that it sounds great. I mean, it's got really good chambers here. Here's a clean chamber.
So when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold myself up, you're the antidote.
So it sounds really nice. And then it has a bunch of great rooms. The dry room sounds good.
So when the shit gets rough and I can barely...
Then a bunch of different spaces, vocal halls.
So when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold myself up.
And then the other cool part about it is they also have these vintage sections, which we'll get into how these are kind of created. But they have like classic halls, kind of like your lexicon sound.
So when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold myself up.
So out of the bat, the reverbs sound great. I mean, it's hard to make a plugin these days, using reverb that doesn't sound great. The algorithms have gotten so good. So, in Reverb Foundry, if you ever heard of HD Cart, it's a great reverb. And so they know what they're doing over there. The reverb sounds really good. So let's get into what's special about it. And what we'll do is there's a bunch of different pages. They have 5 different pages here. I'll show you why I kind of dig this on each page. So first of all, pre-delay with a tempo. You can click it and put your pre-delay tempo. That's huge for me. I think every reverb should have that at this point. You might ask, why would you want that? Well, a lot of times you can put a tempoed pre-delay in your song and it will, pre-delay the reverb, and it just gives you some space. So if you ever if you're new or you're always, using reverb and it kind of muddies the mix, putting a pre-delay in front of the reverb will give it some space. And sometimes you can use it as an effect. So let's put a 16th note so you can really hear what it does.
So when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold myself up, you're the antidote. Fix my mental for a little, getting physical. It's a heavy.
So a lot of times I use a 64th note pre-delay, and in my templates, sometimes I'll have like a H delay before the reverb or any sort of delay, just to have that in there before the reverb hits, and that it's always on time for whatever song tempo I'm on. So having the pre-delay with a tempo click, huge. Now, the next part that's unique to this plugin is this multi-band reverb time multipliers. And what's great about this is you can go down and change the frequency of the reverb time really quickly, but by different bands, and you can change the bands and so forth. So let me just play this and adjust some of this, and you can hear how quickly you can change the sound of your reverb.
So when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold myself up, you're the antidote. Fix my mental for a little, getting physical. It's a heavy head I carry, no lie. So when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold myself up, you're the antidote.
So really cool just how fast you can change the reverb times frequency spectrum and just sculpt the reverb to fit the song really fast. So that's something that's super cool, and I've always kind of wanted, and you can just go down, and if you get too much mid, just bring it down and you're done. Next is the advanced section. Now, not too much here that's not different from others. You have chorus and stuff, different chorus sounds, really cool to have, always great, nothing too wild here. This is the part that really excited me. I love using compressors or ducking after the reverb to get it out of the way of the song. So like, when the reverb hits, it compresses a bit, and then when it releases, when the vocal stops, it opens up a bit. So at the end of the tails, it goes on. So let me play this for you. Now, what's cool is you can do this is what's really cool about it. You can either use the dynamics to do just the reverb signal or both the reverb signal and the reflective signal. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, there's reverb and then reflection. So study reverb, those are the different settings you have. And you can, decide whether you want to just do the reverb or do the reverb and the reflection. So it can give you different sounds either way. Let's start with the reverb and then also compress this so you guys can hear what it's doing.
So when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold. So when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold myself up, you're the antidote. Fix my mental for a little bit.
So you hear when I stop it, it floats up. So this is always great when you have a really busy mix, or even if you don't, it sometimes works well. You can compress the reverb so that it gets out of the way when the vocal's really going and then opens up when there's space for it to open. Love having that in a plugin. I love the way they have it where you can use it on reverb or both the reverb and the reflections. Really, really cool. And you can either duck or compress the whole signal. So these work well in different cases. So huge part of this plugin being cool is the dynamic section. Next is fidelity. So if you notice, these are all full range right now. But what you can do is if you dial these back, you'll notice they go to 13-bit. And so what that is doing is making it so, old school reverbs, digital reverbs were, the 80s ones that a lot of people like, the Lexicon sounds and AMS sounds, were used with, a smaller bit depth. It was, 12, 14, 16. These were new machines that just didn't have the capacity to go any higher. And so that's why you get that kind of grainy sound sometimes by changing the bit depth. So if you go to the vintage and you switch to the classic hall, you'll see that this switches. So the bandwidth changes and the bit depth on the reverb and reflection changes. Now what's really cool about this is you can dial it in any way you want. If you want the reverb to be full range, but have the reflections just 12-bit, you could do that, or you could go opposite, and you can get some really wild effects. I mean, if you crank this down to like 8 on both of them, check it out.
So when the shit gets rough, so when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold myself up, you're the antidote. Fix my mental for a little, getting physical.
And you could also go this way. You can bring these all full range and then bring the output, the total output, and this will do all of it.
So when the shit gets rough and I can barely hold myself up, you're the antidote. Fix my mental for a little, getting physical. It's a heavy head I carry, no lie.
So you can hear it kind of graining out at the end. So 10's pretty extreme, but 16 you can get a good sound and kind of give you that vintage reverb sound. Lastly is the EQ. Now it's pretty simple EQ, but I love just having the EQ built in. You can roll off the top, roll off the bottom, and then you have a low shelf and a high shelf. You can either boost or cut. So great to have the EQ built in. And that's kind of why I like this thing. It's all in one. Sometimes I'll have, our compressor and the EQ after my reverb. With this plugin, you don't have to do that. Super cool plugin and lots of great features. So that is Tai Chi by Reverb Foundry. One more thing to add about this reverb with all the Atmos stuff going on. I'm starting to work towards getting an Atmos room going in here. This has Atmos reverb capability. So you can do 7.1.4 or 5.1. It has reverb. The plugin works for all different formats speaker-wise. So that's another great feature. If you're looking for a kind of reverb that does all that, this one will do that too. Let me know what you think about this reverb in the comments below. If you need your songs mixed and mastered, hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. You can also find my courses and presets there too. Talk to you soon.